Alright guys, we are back in the last match of the series, and if you guys have been paying attention, you know that this one is gonna be epic. It's got Flash, it's got Jaedong, you got two of the top players, certainly the top players of their respective races, facing off in the final match of the MSL Group F. Who would have thought that it would have come to this? I really thought that both Jaedong and Flash were going to get out with no problem, so only one of these two would have been in the final match. But instead, Hwashin the first to make it out, and now we have the battle of the battles. Of every single battle that we've seen here, this is certainly going to be the biggest one, with Flash facing off against Jaedong. Do you guys have any predictions? I can't even think of one right now. Right now in my mind, this is going to be such a good, even match. I can't even give one player an advantage over the other. What do you think, Diggity?
I think on Neo Harmony, I'm going to go with Jaedong, simply because I think Jaedong is going to be able to do some annoying harassing things over that secondary. He's going to get a pretty good meterless harass off, and he'll be able to transition right into the late game. That's kind of my opinion on this. I believe this is on Neo Harmony. We'll see once we get going. But yeah, I just think that'll be the depictor in the game. Just the map features and Jaedong comfortableness on the map. We'll see what Flash comes out with. I'd be curious to see if he decides to go. Classically, this hasn't been very good for mech, but it's possible he'll go mech and maybe kind of switch something out in there. But even then, I think Jaedong's been doing very well against mech, hiding his tech. So, but yeah, I got to pick Jaedong in this match.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Jaedong starting off at the bottom right-hand corner at the 5 o'clock position, Flash at the bottom left-hand corner in red at the 7 o'clock position, and Jaedong is scouting in the correct direction, so that's going to help him certainly a lot. Especially against Terran players, it really helps Zerg a lot if they can get the overall right in the first go and get to the Terran base, because that really gives them a lot of information, because otherwise it just takes so much longer to get that overload over there, and it makes it much harder for the Terran to fool you. So that suggests to me that Jaedong's not going to get caught with his pants down like he did in the first game versus Hwashin. But again, I just want to remind Rise, I believe you predicted that Firebat Hero would be going through. Turns out he's the first player to get dumped out of... I'm sorry, I couldn't let you get away. You didn't say Flash and Jaedong. You said Firebat Hero and Flash, I believe. So
that's right.
Firebat Hero is gone. Right. Anyway, back to this matchup. I'm a little bit aggrieved and saddened, even though I feel really happy for Hwashin. I am sad that one of these two guys is going to go out. And you know, this matchup, Flash versus Jaedong, it deserves a best of 3, or at least a best of 3, if not a best of 5. You know, we deserve to see that level of StarCraft that these two guys are going to pump out today in this game, and it's just going to be, you know, the fans are going to suffer from losing one of these two epic players. And I think probably Zerg fans are probably better off than Terran fans right now, because there isn't, okay, there's Lida, I'm sure. Actually, I'm not even sure if Lida's in the MSL, but because I know he's in the OSL. But Savior is there for Zerg fans to pick it up. I think July is there as well. But who's there to represent the Terran fans if Flash should go out? Who's the big Terran hope to try and take the competition down? I don't think there's anyone really of that caliber. I don't think there's really anyone of that caliber. And Jaedong looks like he's put a 12 pool down. Flash, 12 hash rate down. Sorry, Flash sending his SCV out, is going to scout in the right direction. So pretty standard openings from both of these players, and it's going to be interesting to see which of the players try something different or special to try and get that little extra edge. You have a feeling that Flash is probably going to have to be the one to do that.
Yeah, you know, I can't disagree with you. I do wish I could disagree with you if Firebat Hero had won the game, but unfortunately he didn't. And, oh, look at this. It looks like Flash is actually trying to put down his expansion, and Jaedong doing a great job of delaying that, if that is, in fact, what he's trying to go. And it is, as he brings out a couple more SCVs to try to fight off this drone. But no, Jaedong can... Oh, no, he makes him build it a little bit further away. Of course, Terran, that doesn't bother him all that much because he can just lift it off and replace it, but it is that much more of a hassle that Flash has to worry about later in the game that normally he wouldn't have to, and it's not often that you see a Zerg player delaying a Terran player's expansion. So Jaedong already playing some good harassment tactics in this match, and we'll have to see if Flash can come back with anything early enough to kind of put Jaedong a little bit back.
Looks like that second barracks going down now. This is very similar to what we saw Firebat Hero do in his game. It's been pretty, I think it's been pretty typical for Terran going for the Medic Marine for quite some time now, and we'll see how it plays. It does look like he is going to transition into Medic Marine. He hasn't put down that gas, and usually you'll see a front door seal and gas from there. Once again, I think Jaedong's going to have the advantage here. I think he's just going to go Mutalist, get that standard Mutalist harass down, and be pretty solid in the mid game. Going to be able to take, because map control is so huge, and having those Mutalists out in the field will be pretty. I think it's pretty viable on this map, just because the way the map artifacts work, because there are a decent amount of ramps. But critically, you have have to establish another position. You got to get another base out in the middle of the map. I don't feel like Terran can push up and get any sort of contain or map control on this map as easily just because of the weights, just because of the features across it. Although I haven't seen a lot of Terran Zerg. I think the last time I saw it was Up Magic. He decided to go mech, and now we're seeing the SCVs transition across that command center being lifted off. A couple getting transitioned out of position, and a bunker going down on the front, and some Zerglings moving up in position. Looks like they might just be trying to test that front door, make sure, I gotta assume that scouts don't go out, and Jaedong going to take that quick hatchery to the 6 o'clock location across that temple line, so maybe he's thinking about, oh, looks like the Zergling's actually able to get a run by just before that bunker able to go down. No fire bats in position. These Marines in desperate trouble. They're kind of exposed, and at the very least the Zergling's going to be able to be annoying on that front base, maybe slow down that tech, maybe pick down that academy, force the Marines to come out to him, but very nice run by Jaedong.
Yeah, Jaedong's got his lings in there, and that's going to annoy Flash no end, because Jaedong's now started up that 6 o'clock expansion as well, and Flash is going to lose a couple more Marines. Finally, he's cornered those Zerglings. Jaedong finally makes a stand with his Zerglings, managed to lose most of them. One of the other advantages of going for that 2 racks after the CC is that you can get a medic and marine group out, and it's critical for the Terran player to try and get an early medic and marine group out to try and put pressure on the Zerg player, not allow him to get that 3rd hatchery. But obviously the Zerg player is going to try and use the Mutalisks to force the Terran back into his base, and therefore be able to use that time to get that 3rd hatchery out. And Jaedong's lair is almost up, and it's got to be said, Flash isn't looking too good here, because mainly because of that harass that Jaedong managed to effect. Flash is going to have that comsat up, but Flash doesn't really look like he's in any position to really put pressure on Jaedong and threaten him, and Jaedong is going to get that 3rd hatchery comfortably out, and that 3rd hatchery by Jaedong was a little bit risky, but he used the Zerglings to delay Flash and distract him, and Flash is just sitting in his base and sitting in his base and sitting in his base while Jaedong is getting that expansion up, and then he's going to have the Mutalisks to defend it, and Flash is going to have no chance to then take it down. Flash only just now getting the medic and marine group out, and he's going to be ready to push out. The question is whether he's going to go and try and check out that 6 o'clock base or not. Meanwhile, Flash trying to get some turrets up for defense, but the problem with Flash is that he's got, because of that, what is the big risk for Terran going for that fast expansion is that it does mean that you only have that one group of medic and marines out on the field by the time the Mutalisks pop, and you have to keep them back because you haven't had time to get enough turrets in place, so you have to keep them back to defend against the Mutalisks, which is what gives the Zerg the player the time to get that 3rd expansion running, and Jaedong went for that 3rd expansion quite early on.
Yeah, if you look at the position that he's in, too, this is a great position to be doing a little bit of a muta harass, especially with those the horrible placement of those turrets, because they're right next to the ledge. He can bounce in and out of vision with his clump of muta and do a ton of damage. So unless Flash is constantly scanning that area, he's probably going to lose those couple of turrets. But instead, Jaedong is instead electing to go towards the main base of Flash and see if he can take out any Marines and medics. And really, if he can get some economic damage done to Flash, he's going to be in an even more comfortable position than he was in before this. And I gotta agree, I do think that Flash is playing a little bit off right now. Jaedong does have him a little bit on his heels, and look at this, Jaedong just playing a great game of bouncing in and out, making Flash guess a lot at where's mutas are going to be next. Obviously that is the huge benefit of using mutas. The mobility advantage there is just ridiculous. You can be all over the map, and there's not much the Terran player can do, and that is what makes an effective harass, makes him effective for harassing. So he's able to take out a couple of more units, but I gotta say, I'm a little surprised that Jaedong hasn't done more with those mutas at this point already. He has lost one at this point, not gonna hurt him that much, but I was hoping that he was gonna do some damage on that natural expansion sooner than he did. And look at this, switching now to Hydras and obviously most likely Lurker tech to start throwing off Flash some more. And you know, this could be good for Flash actually, because Flash has got that bunker in the front and he's doing a pretty good job of defending against these muta. So the muta being kind of ineffective. So I mean, it's not good for him, but he's making it difficult for him to do much with it. And now Jaedong pounding away at those turrets, taking out 2, but taking a lot of hits with those muta and still not really managing to do all that much with those muta.
I think he's doing a good job just distracting Flash at the moment. Flash, 4 turrets on a secondary, really concerned that position. That Hydralisk Den and those Lurkers, I think that's what Jaedong's waiting for at this stage before deciding to take any more of the map. With just Lurkers on top of ramps, it's just so easy to defend a base. He can just go take another ramp position anywhere he wants to in the map. And again, it's like, how can Terran establish map position, or I should say, positional control, map control on this map? You've got a huge ramp in the middle. You've got a bridge and some ramps leading out towards basically Jaedong's base, another ramp towards the 6 o'clock. It just feels like they've got to be too many places at once just to establish map control. You got to have 2 split groups of medic marines. That's very dangerous with lurkers and lings out in the field. One or the other could get picked off, and on top of that, you need 2 groups instead of just 1 to pin a Zerg into his base. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Looks like the lurker's already out 5 turrets on that secondary. It shows you how much. I think that's perhaps in reaction to Jaedong producing additional Mutalisks, and you can see already Flash a little bit worried about expansions going up out of position, so he's going out to scout. Looks like, oh, this is unfortunate. He scouted that 12 o'clock right as that drone, it looks like, was headed up there to plant it, so he might have been a little bit off position. And it looks like Jaedong upgrading weapons 1 on the Mutalisks as well. There he's got the lurkers, the comsat right there. Now the question, it's going to be up to Jaedong to hold this against these medic marine forces with these Mutalisks. He's going to have that ramp to do it, though. Those marines are really going to have to play carefully with that ramp, and if those lurkers can it just needs to wait for those lurkers to pop. This is going to be absolutely huge. Very close, and it looks like he got up the ramp. Is he going to have detection? Is he going to be able to take out those 4 lurkers as they pop? Probably, and at the very least, he's going to get a lot of drone kills here. Now they're popping. Now they're going to establish, not able to take any out, and it looks like Jaedong is going to, in fact, hold. And Flash is just not going to be able to do anything at this expansion. Now that was his one opportunity. Going an attack up a ramp is just so difficult. And you can see he's just keeping those Marines back away from that ramp. He's not going to be able to push this. And Jaedong actually getting a little bit aggressive, doesn't even need to. He's just going to flood him a little bit further back. Now the question is what can Flash do? He's getting a second bunker on his front door. He's going to have to absorb some attacks, it looks like. He's switching to starports. So wow, thinking about doing some drops. Maybe going, I got to assume not Wraith. He's going to get some of those science vessels up to support this, but I just feel like he's behind at this stage. Jaedong has map control. Jaedong has the unit composition he wants. He's just gonna, looks like he's just getting steadily pushed back into his base. He's put up so many turrets delaying his economy otherwise. I just feel like Jaedong's in a great position.
Yeah, Jaedong Jaedong was very lucky there because Flash was in with his medic and marines, and unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to get the kill on the lurkers because he didn't have the scan. Otherwise, if he'd focus him down. But one thing that I've noticed that Flash is doing very carefully in this game, and maybe he's being a little bit too careful, is he's really trying his damnedest to conserve his medic and marine force and try and build off some sort of force. He's not allowing his medic and marines to be wasted at all. He doesn't want to lose them because he's seen what happened last game when Firebat Hero lost his medic and marines, and now it looks like Flash is trying to push in, but Jaedong's already had 4 creep colonies there, so Flash is just going to force Jaedong to convert them into something that he's going to immediately turn back around and run for that 6 o'clock base, but unfortunately there are going to be those 3 lurkers in a line. It's going to be impossible for him to scale that ramp. Jaedong hasn't tried to take any other base because he doesn't really need to, because he's got the 3 gas going since he did put his 3rd Hashi down at that 6 o'clock position, so he's able to actually focus on being a lot more aggressive and having a lot more units, and I think that might actually play a little bit into Flash's hands. Jaedong now getting the hive up, and now Jaedong's actually sneaking past those turrets while Flash's units are away and going to get a good scout at Flash's base and also do significant amount of economic damage to those Mutalisks. He's hovering right over those barracks. He's actually going to try and thwart Flash's supply and maybe kill that science vessel as it pops out. And he's killed a lot of Marines, and now the science vessel is Jaedong is forcing the science vessel, and the science vessel almost goes down. The science vessel just barely survives. Jaedong almost pulling off the perfect maneuver. If he'd stayed maybe a second longer, that science vessel would have died, and that would pretty much have been GG for Flash right there. As it is, the science vessel survives, and Flash is doing the right thing, I think, conserving his medic and Marines as much as possible. Jaedong realized that he needs to inflict some damage, is taking some of them down. Meanwhile, Flash has got the 2 starports with the control tower, so Flash is just going to try and get that bio build going, and I think Jaedong realizes that, which is why he hasn't spread himself too far around the map, because he doesn't want to have to defend. He feels that he's got enough in terms of the 3 gas and economy to be able to take this game with what he has, and is concentrating on having a good-sized army out on the field so that he doesn't get overrun by Flash.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I feel like Flash is definitely coming back into this game, making a position for himself here. He's been scouting all over the place on the map. Jaedong has not left any of the... Oh, look at that! Greater Spire! So it looks like Jaedong is considering going for some guards again. I wonder if we'll see Queen's play again. He does have the Queen's Nest. Obviously, that's necessary for the Hive, but I'm wondering if he's going to break out another Queen and start using some action that way, which would be pretty cool. He's only got the 1 lurker at that ramp now. I don't know where the other 2 have gone, but he's going to try to block everything with just that 1 lurker, and oh man, look at that! He's going to try to pick off that science vessel, but no, he turns back. Too many medic marines there. Going to make it very difficult for him to do any damage there. And look at this. It looks like Flash is actually going towards the back of his base, going to take out that temple and eventually start mining out that mineral only there, probably from the inside of his base, which may or may not be a good decision depending on Jaedong's potential lurker play, but obviously it's getting a little ahead of myself right here. Looks like Flash is moving out with a very large group of medic marines and a couple of science vessels, and I gotta be honest, I don't know if Jaedong has enough to defend against all that. His hive tech is up, but he's going guards, and while he'll have guards to deal with some of the Medic Marines, the question is, will he have it in time? Will Flash push before that happens? And when he does, will he be able to take out the guards? I don't know.
I think, yeah, that's the thing, is if he does morph those Guardians, he's not going to have a lot of those mules to support against this. Flash just macroing up like mad. He's got so many Medic Marines on the ground. And I think, yeah, he's just positioning around that 6 o'clock. I'm not sure where those 2 additional lurkers went. That might have been a mistake to move them off that 6 o'clock location, though. I still don't think that Flash is going to suicide his way down that 6 o'clock, even with just a single lurker there. He did comps that out to just see that single lurker, and it looks like that's what he's going to do. He's going to use a radiation. They were stacked there. Radiation to open that up, and then try to continue there at that 6 o'clock. But yeah, after seeing first of all, no Carapace upgrade on the on the Zerglings, and then seeing that Weapons 1 upgrade early, I had to assume that we were going to see the Guardians. Guardians have morphed, and again with that ramp, we're going to see some micro. And the question is the radiation? There's nothing to deal with those science vessels. Jaedong hasn't kept those science vessel count down low. Now pushing in, still not able to kill the science vessels. I think Jaedong might be in some trouble here because he's not able to stop the irradiates on the lurkers, and additionally, he's lost a lot of his Guardians, and it looks like he is just going to be able to press in. Took out all the lurkers, and there's no defense here. Nothing to stop him except for, it looks like, 2 or 3 Guardians, another irradiation going off. Maybe if those Scourge can go up and take care of those science vessels, you'd be able to save the space, but otherwise I just don't see it happening. Another Medic Marine grouping waiting at the 3 o'clock location to take that out. It's just a matter of Flash attack moving there. Some lurkers coming in to surround backside. Flash being a little bit careless, not holding the ramp, but now he's going to be able to take that out. Jaedong in a lot of trouble now.
Yeah, this is GG, and you've got to give a lot of credit to Flash. He played it patiently, but Jaedong, I have to say, I don't know what Jaedong did. Why did he have to make the switch to Guardians? Why couldn't he just have kept playing standard and kept expanding when he had Flash in the back foot and Flash was sitting inside his base? But you have to give a lot of credit to Flash, and in all 3 games, in all his games that Flash has won, you can see how he's bided his time and bided his time and bided his time to try and make the right attacking maneuver. He was a little bit impatient in the second game against Huashin, which is why he lost, but against Firebat Hero and against Jaedong, his decision making has just been perfect, and Flash knew that he didn't want to expose his Medic and Marines early on to Jaedong, which is why he held him back for as long as he could, and waited till he would have a vastly superior ground force before going out, and Jaedong didn't really inflict any economic damage, and Jaedong is out. Believe it or not, Jaedong, the hot favorite for the MSL, is going to go out right now in the round of 32, and that's going to hurt him big time, and you can just see the anguish on his face, and really brilliance by Flash. And I'm left a little bit perplexed, and maybe one of you guys can explain to me what exactly Jaedong was doing and why he didn't try to expand a little bit more when he had those mutalisks harassing Flash, and try and just go for a more standard strategy, and just continue on with Lurker Ling. I just don't understand why he would feel the need to go Guardians there.
My only thought is that he thought that Flash was turtling up so much with investing so much in terms of defense. And I mean, you got to remember, Jaedong got plenty of scouts. He got late game scouts through the entire base of Flash, and I can't imagine he didn't know what type of units Flash had. He saw everything, and really, he should have expanded much earlier than he did. He should have done a lot more. He should have tried to do more economic damage than he did, because he did pretty much 0 after the initial harassments that he was able to pull off. The Muta, in my opinion, were pretty much useless. Well, they were distractionary. You're talking about a Flash who has one of the best controls in the entire game of StarCraft. I mean, he's just, how do you distract a player like Flash? I don't think you do, even if you're Jaedong. And really, the fact of the matter is, he should have been expanding while harassing. Obviously, when you attack, you usually expand if you have that opportunity, and I think Jaedong had that opportunity. And Diggity, you nailed it before when you said that he should be taking expansions, and he's got lurkers where he can just do a simple lurker block on the ramp. He didn't do that. Why didn't he do that? I don't know. All he had to do was dedicate 1 or 2 lurkers to an expansion, and he would have had map control, economic control, whatever you want to call it, and this game should have been in his favor, considering he had an advantage from the start.
I think what happened here is in the recent match between SKT, I'm trying to remember who the 2 players that were playing. It might have been the Zerg versus, I'm not even remembering who it was on the opposite side. I just remember it was SKT versus Samsung. Watched it the other night live, which was a lot of fun. Mostly remember the last matches, which I won't spoil because they're really fun. Go watch that set. But we saw this sort of thing as well, but there was a lot more economic damage that was done early. I think Jaedong might have overestimated the amount of economic damage he did early. And then also, the Guardians popped on the other side of the map. The Guardians were basically popping right over the secondary. So, and again, map control, Zergling, and Hydralisks were basically, it was a Zergling Lurker Guardian kind of combination with some Hydralisks alongside to keep the Science Vessels out. Right there, Jaedong didn't have anything to do with the Science Vessels, and he was caught out of position. He was going for a build where you really need position on the Terran to just press forward, and instead he was in his own base. He was defending his own 6 o'clock location, and I think Flash just did a good job of anticipating it, brought up the Irradiate, and just kind of anticipated that build, and just ended up playing it perfectly. Yeah, I think he would have been better off just going for ramp position across, just planting lurkers, taking map control, and then just going crazy economy like he could. Instead, Jaedong went for what he's been doing a lot lately, which is the 3 gas to hive tech. And I honestly, whenever he's been doing this, he's been not successful. He's been falling behind. He's been losing it to Terran players in general. I'm not sure why he keeps sticking with this build. This is kind of what put him into the slump at the end of 2000, or I'm sorry, I guess the mid end of 2007, and I can't see him going back to this and being successful.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I'm just left completely perplexed. Jaedong looked like he was in a very, very strong position, and he's just completely threw. I mean, not taking away any credit from Flash, but I think Jaedong threw that game away. There was no reason for him to do what he did, for him to go down the path that he did. He could have won that game playing standard and forcing Flash out, but for some reason he didn't seem to have the appetite for it, and he's paid the price. But all credit to Flash and Huashin. They progressed through to the next round, and one of the strongest contenders is eliminated, leaving the field wide open. And personally, I feel Flash is going to be very difficult to stop.
I gotta agree with you, man. I think that Flash may be one of the big contenders to make it all the way, because he does have the skill, he does have the power, he's got the game knowledge, the game sense, and a lot of the other players just don't have the macro ability and the game sense that Flash does. And Flash, when he's on top of his game, we just saw it. Nobody can take it away from him, except for Washington, of course, who managed to beat him to move on. So, yeah, definitely congratulations to the 2 players who moved on. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Said I had a lot of fun doing that. I don't know about you guys. And you guys got any last words of wisdom before we go?
I think one thing we have to consider is in that last game, Flash really did a really good build against the map. I guess it's standard SKT, but or I should SK Terran, I should say. Even if he had gone for expansions across the map, he would have had lurkers out of position without a lot of hope for reinforcements, and Flash could have done the same thing, or just irradiate the lurkers and then march up. I guess at that point, a lot of his troops would have been out of position, but nevertheless, I think Flash would have been successful against most builds on this map. And I think, yeah, he's a very dangerous player going on just because he's creative, he's smart, and he's just got the solid builds, the solid APM, and the game sense, and he's been there before. And we'll see if he's well rested. I think before he was just feeling a little bit of kind of the We Made Fox syndrome, where he was feeling a bit burnt out from all the games he was playing. Right now he looks very fresh, he looks very straight, and even though he ended up not going out on Huashin's area, I think that's just hope for Huashin, and I'm gonna throw that in there because I really like Huashin and I hope he goes far as well. But yeah, 2 strong Terran advancing from this group, and probably the strongest Zerg getting knocked out.
Yeah, I just want to say to everyone who's listening, be sure to check out Peanut's new podcast, the P-Pod, on her StarCraft channel, Peanut SC1. It's going to be a bi-weekly feature, and hopefully there'll be some interesting stuff in it for you guys to enjoy. So do check that out when you guys get a chance as well. And a big thank you to Rise, Diggity, and Cholera for the co-commentating fun. That was definitely a great series of StarCraft. I really enjoyed commentating it. But I probably will not be doing any more commentaries till the MSL round of 16 Savior matches, just to let you guys have a little heads up about that. But very chuffed for Huashin. Pleased for Flash. Disappointed that Jaedong's out. But this MSL tournament is now wide open.
All right, guys, you heard it from them yourselves. So see you guys in the next round of commentaries. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.